And the big thing is also your nonverbal communication, right? Like how you're kind of like carrying yourself, or how you're like nodding when somebody, speaking, and then you let people speak, right?
You're making me so aware of myself now in this interview, Nadja. I'm like, am I nodding? Am I smiling? It's the Germany Experience Podcast, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm Shaun, your host. Go to thegermanyexperience.de to find out more about the show and to subscribe to the podcast in your feeds. And don't forget, there's also a YouTube channel. The German Experience has a YouTube channel that you can watch some of the interviews. I don't post all of the interviews up there, but a lot of the interviews get posted, and quite often they're more of an uncut version of the episodes than what you hear in your audio feed. So do check the YouTube channel out. Links are in my show notes. My guest this week is a German who has lived around the world and who has some advice for making friends in Germany. But before we get to that, I must just tell you this. You'll have heard me mention to a few guests recently that I wanted to take my German to the next level. Now, I've been here for a long time and my German is great, but still it's very far from perfect. And I've definitely become more aware of that fact lately, that my German really needs to be further along since I'm living here. Germany is my home now. So I've been looking around for a language course that suits me. And I know myself, I struggle to do sort of very structured courses, or if it's lessons that I have to go to twice a week, I generally struggle. So I was looking around for something that I could get into, and I think I found it. It's a course called Wunderbla, and it was created by a company called Gymglish. Now, they say the course is for non-beginners, so it's from level A2 upwards. And each day, how it works is you receive a lesson, which takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, depending on your level. And then you submit it, and you get corrections immediately, which includes other things that you also can revise and so on. But the best part is, and I've just started to see it now, is that the course is customized according to your strengths or weaknesses. So for me, in the first few days, I was just literally clicking through these lessons. I was breezing through them. I was like, this is great, just catching up on some German. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. But then came lesson 4. And just like the other days, I was also all clicky through it, feeling pretty positive. But when I got my results back, it was a bit of a shock, because for lesson 4, I only got 65% of the answers correct, which after getting 100% on the previous days was quite a bit of a shocker for me. And then lesson 5 came, and boy, I guess we're about at my level roundabout now. And apparently after 10 lessons, you get an evaluation of your current German level. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a little apprehensive because maybe I'm not as far along as I thought I was. Yeah, and what you probably noticed is that I really like the concept of this course. And in fact, I liked it so much that I've become an affiliate partner of theirs. And I'd love you to try it out along with me and let me know what you think of the course. Gymglish, the people behind Wunderbla, are letting me offer you a free month to try it out for yourself. So you can sign up for free on my website with no obligations. Go to thegermanyexperience.de/German, and there you can sign up and also see more details about the course. So thegermanyexperience.de/German. Sign up. Let's compare notes as we go along, because I'm really enjoying it so far. And I would love to hear your thoughts about the course as well. And in case you're wondering why I'm not doing German Uncovered, which was the other course I spoke about a few months ago on this podcast, it's because that course is geared towards beginners specifically. I needed something that was a little more advanced, and Wunderbla is aimed at non-beginners, as I said, from A2 upwards. Now, on to my guest this week. Her name is Nadja Todt, and she's from Germany, but she has lived in the USA and Australia and is now back in Germany. She describes herself as a global citizen, a change maker, international experience expert, community connector and mentor, and a German and English language consultant. And what caught my eye about her was a program that she offers called 45 Days to Meaningful Friendships and Connections, because it's something that often comes up on this podcast, and it is a common concern with foreigners in Germany. So I asked her to come on the podcast and talk a bit about that. And Nadja gives us her 3 main points that she believes are important for making connections, as well as many other insights taken from her years of experience as a foreigner and working with foreigners as well. So here's Nadja. So Nadja, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week.
Thanks so much. Of course, I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And the way that it ended up that we got you to come on the podcast was quite a coincidence, I guess, because I used to live in Frankfurt quite a few years ago, and so I joined a Facebook group. It's called what is it called? Expats in Frankfurt.
Yeah,
right?
expats foreigners in Frankfurt.
That's right. So I joined that Facebook group. I don't know how long it's been around, and then I'm still in it because I just never left the group. And then you posted just a sort of an introduction to yourself, and you mentioned a few things that you're doing. And one of them has to do with getting to know yourself and making friends, which is a topic that is very, very important to a lot of foreigners living in Germany. Obviously, it's one of the top, in fact, if not the top problem, along with learning the language, that foreigners experience when they're in Germany. So I thought you would be a great guest. So I reached out, I took the chance, I said, would you like to come on the podcast? And here we are.
Yay! Yes, no, I'm so excited. I'm really so excited. I'm glad that you've reached out. So that kind of all worked out.
Yeah, it did. But one of the things that I did notice was one of the things that you posted was you offer a survival German course. Maybe you want to talk about that.
So exactly. So it's a 5-hour course for newcomers to Germany. So it's literally 5 hours only, and it's like a perfect introduction to German language and to German culture. Right. So we do a lot of like work with pronunciation, vocabulary. We talk about culture, history, German, values. Obviously, like Germany is quite different than a lot of other countries, and depending on where you're from and how much you know about Germany before you move here, right? Like you really kind of want to be prepared and also be able to speak a little bit of German and also connect with German people. And then some people don't have time, to like take a German class. It's 3 months long. Yeah. So that's why we kind of compiled everything in 5 hours. And then, I'm teaching it a couple of friends of mine as well. And then just make it a very individualized experience. So people can ask lots of questions. I like doing research for people, if they have anything, and we do it in different cities in Germany as well. Okay. And always give, some resources. So people have like an amazing start, because I know how hard it is to move to a new country. Yeah. And you really don't know the culture much. You don't know the people much. It can be quite overwhelming at the beginning. Right. So it's nice to kind of like, that you can start somewhere and get a little bit of support right at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll put links to all of these in the show notes, of course. Yeah. And the next thing was that you have something that is a 45-day to meaningful friendships and connections program. And that's kind of going to lead us into this episode's topic, but just explain to me what that is about.
Yeah, so I've developed a program. So like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people are struggling, right, with making friends, connecting with people abroad, but not just abroad, like in general, right? And especially when you get older, sometimes it's harder to connect with people. And depending on where you're from and kind of the way, you feel about yourself as well and what's going on in your life, all of that is going to affect it. So I created this program. So it's 45 days, so 6 weeks long, that really helps people build meaningful and deep connections and friendships. Okay. And really helps them improve their communication skills, their social skills, but also helps a lot with self-awareness and learning more about yourself, about emotional intelligence, and just really taking control of your life and feeling confident and feeling motivated and feeling empowered. That's what I feel very passionate about, right? Okay. I really want to help people learn more about themselves and also about others. But before you can really connect to others, you really need to know, a lot about yourself and what you what is important to you, who you are, and so on, and certain things that you might struggle with. Yeah. So I created this program, and the clients that I work with are amazing, and people see changes so quickly because it's small behavior changes that change, your mindset. And once you start taking action, so much happens in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So let's get into this topic of making friends and how it applies to people in Germany who are looking to make friends with Germans. And I suppose there's two layers to this issue for people in Germany, because you've got the thing about making friends with Germans, and I've learned making friends with Germans in your area is pretty specific, because Germans are different all over Germany. So the Germans where I am in Franconia are like quite tough to crack, and then you get other areas in northern Germany, for example, that are very open and happy from the get go. So it's very different and very difficult to say one size fits all. But that's why the other tier to this, or the other aspect, is the stuff that from yourself. And you mentioned knowing yourself. So I suppose this is part of what you're teaching in that 45-day course. And but it's important to know yourself before you can make friends with people, right?
Exactly, because it all starts with you, right? Like you always got to look at yourself first. Because some people, they tend to blame others for certain things, right? Certain things are not happening in my life, or, this person doesn't want to connect with me, or this is what's going on and stuff. But at the end of the day, you kind of need to see what's going on with you. So when I work with people, we always start with, where are you at right now?
Okay.
And what do you kind of, want to improve, or what are some things, that are going on? So when I work with people, like the first session, I developed like a questionnaire for people. It's like 45 questions. I have a very holistic and individualized approach. And we just kind of look at what's going on in your life. What are certain patterns? What are certain things that have happened in your past, and so on? Because, that obviously affects you very much now.
Yeah.
Then certain things, that might hold you back from really, connecting with other people. So we kind of go through this. And then again, like once you see certain patterns, you can kind of create an action plan, and you kind of really know what to work on. But yeah, knowing yourself first, number one. And it's so life-changing to know who you are. And what your values are. A lot of people don't know this really, because lives are so busy, right? Everything is so busy. We're so caught up with so many things. So most of the time we don't have time to think about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So nobody really sits at home and thinks, oh, who am I? What is important to me? What are my values? But when you start working with somebody and they ask you certain questions that are super thought-provoking, you start thinking about all those things. And I also, give clients homework and stuff, a lot of journaling. And it's like people, they're like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about this. Right? Never thought about like, who am I? What's important to me, and so on. But yeah, it is really step number one, that you learn a lot about yourself and what you want and how you want to connect with people. Who do you want to connect with? Why do you want to connect with them? And so on. And then you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's a very good start. And like you said, I think two things. I think one thing, younger people, I think it is difficult for them to know their values. If I think of me when I was in my 20s, I don't think I had a clue of where I was still forming a lot of values as well. So that adds to the complexity, I guess, of making friends. Although I think at the same time, it is easier for younger people to make friends than people maybe a bit older. That's the one thing. And then it does add a layer of complexity when you're in a new culture. Like, let's say foreigners who've come to Germany. You're in a new culture now, and you don't know who you are in that culture. That is also something that I think is a big a complication to things, because suddenly, I've spoken about it on previous episodes on this podcast as well. It was the episode with the Americans drinking whiskey in Germany podcast, and they were saying we discussed the same thing, that you kind of have to reinvent yourself in some ways, because certain parts of you maybe don't feel like they fit in this new culture, or I don't know. There's several things, so that also adds to the complexity of knowing yourself, I guess.
Exactly. But you know what? I actually find it super exciting, because, when you move to a new country, you can kind of explore yourself all over again, and you will learn new things about yourself, because you're in this new place, and you will learn so much about how you face certain challenges, how you connect with people. There's so much. And I've experienced it when I first moved to America, when I went to Australia, when I went to London, all those different places. There were so many challenges. at the beginning, and then you overcome so many challenges, and it makes you so strong. It makes you so resilient. And, looking back, you can be so proud of yourself and be like, I moved to this new place and I really navigated, through a new country, new people, new culture. And it was hard at the beginning. And then looking back, you're like, wow, but it really made me a better person.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love this. So I always see this as an opportunity when people, move to new places, because you know what, like all those things just make you so much stronger and just really help you grow and learn and progress in life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that also if someone is a foreigner in a country, most of the time, it depends on the reasons that they're in the country, but most of the time they are an adventurous type of person and they also do like the challenge. But I know that there are also many foreigners who maybe have more anxiety when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Or if you already feel insecure about yourself and you make a move to another culture, it could just add to your insecurities. And there it's also difficult to like, what about yourself can you find that's going to give you confidence or, help you make friends easier in that country?
Exactly. Yeah, no. And again, right, we're all different.
Yeah.
And that's when I work with clients, that's why I say I have a very individualized approach, because we're all different. We have different personalities, different values, different past experiences. So that's why I said earlier, it's always kind of good to look at your past as well and really understand what's holding you back sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we all kind of have different realities, right?
Yeah.
And our thoughts and our emotions create this reality. And we all have a different reality. So you meet other people, and sometimes people, feel scared to engage with others because so many of us feel scared about like feeling judged by others.
Yeah.
And it's, especially
Well, you got to get over that in Germany, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's the fear of judgment. I remember when I moved to the US, I was always like very worried about my English and my accent and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in class, and this one student, he just looked at me and he's like, Nadja, your accent makes my ears hurt.
What?
I was just sitting there and I felt so bad. And I called my German friend after and I was crying. And I'm like, I can't believe he said this. Like, I'm really trying. I'm bilingual. And obviously, my English is not perfect. It doesn't have to be. That was after a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was studying, I was trying. So some people say very hurtful things. And obviously he didn't think about, how it's going to affect me and stuff, right? But those small things, like people judge us.
Yes.
But then I'm like, why would you say a thing like that? Because obviously there's something you're not happy with, about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that comes back to knowing yourself again. And it's interesting how, first of all, I can't believe that someone would say that. And I'm surprised. I would expect a German, to be honest, to say that, because Germans are quite honest. I've had Germans tell me that my English is terrible in the beginning. That my German was terrible in the beginning. So I could expect that, but that is brutal. That is quite a brutal comment to make. But it comes back to knowing yourself, like what you let. What can bother you if someone says something, because there are some things that people will say and that those are the things that stick with you, even though it is one person that said it and you maybe don't always fully understand what the context is, but there's a reason that sticks with you, and that's because of some way that you're made up, or like you said, your reality of things, and maybe it's just confirmed what you think. And so there's a lot of complicated things going on in friendships or making friends.
Yeah, no, it's literally like you just mentioned. It's exactly that. Like, it triggered me because I felt insecure about, the way I speak English. And I was 21. I was in the country for a couple of years. And there were times like people made comments. I just wasn't sure that I said it correctly and stuff. I felt very insecure about it. And when he said that, this triggered me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he is right. Maybe it sounds horrible or something. I think that's what happens to a lot of people. Like, somebody says something to you and it triggers you, and then again you need to look at yourself. Why does it trigger you?
Exactly.
Why do you feel insecure about it, and how can you maybe change it and change your belief system about it?
Yeah. And I guess part of the knowing yourself in terms of making friends is also some advice that keeps coming up on this podcast is go to where your passions are, and that's where you'll meet the people that'll be your friends. And I think that is that is such a true thing. And I guess it's also knowing what your passions are, which it sounds obvious, but you might not always know that there's something that you're passionate about or something that so that's also part of it, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's nice to connect with people, right, that have the same interests, passions, and hobbies. Funny enough, I actually work with a startup. It's called TribeLink, and it's a new social connection platform. And what they do is they connect people that have the same hobbies, interests, and passions. Right. And it's all with hashtags, and it's all about connecting one-on-one. So you can literally just go on the platform, you put your hashtags, you create a profile, and you can, start engaging with people and kind of engage with them on the different platforms. Right. And literally then you have this one thing in common already that you can talk about. And you see on their profile, oh, they like yoga, they like hiking. And you can easily start a conversation because it's one of the things. Some people, and that's what I teach as well, some people are a bit unsure how to approach other people. Yeah. And how they kind of can start conversations. And then again, like, oh, is there going to be judgment? What do they think and stuff? So your communication style, right? Mm-hmm. It's a huge, huge part of how to connect with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, communication style. But how do you, so obviously if we've each got our communication style, like you just said, but is that something that you need to adjust? For example, if you want to make friends with people in Germany, do you need to adjust that communication style, or is it something that you need to look in and see, okay, how does this translate, or how does it, what is your advice for people when it comes to communication style?
So I think definitely, so people here in Germany, and it depends again on people's age as well, because a lot of younger people, they speak English. Mm-hmm. So they actually enjoy speaking with foreigners because they want to improve their English. Sometimes I have quite a few, clients are like, oh yeah, we're so happy we can, practice a little bit. But also a lot of Germans kind of like when you try. Yes. And your German doesn't have to be amazing, but I experienced the same, when I was in the US, like, you need to be able to communicate a little bit. And if you say something's wrong, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But people kind of want to see that you're trying to be part of the culture. Yes. That's very important to people here in Germany because they're like, oh, if this person moves here, right, they need to adapt a little bit, and they should be interested, and learning German a little bit. And then a huge thing is also understanding the cultural values and kind of what's important to people. Yeah. And, some people more formal here, so that's one thing. Like you can't just be, walking up to people, calling them by their names because people are like, oh, this is, a bit different now. And then it is very different in the workplace and stuff. So it's very, very complex communication style. But then again, I think one of the most important things, communication, is your listening skills. Okay. And it doesn't matter which language that is in, right? But if you think about it, we all want to be listened to, and we all kind of want to be understood. And that's one thing people need to think about. What are my listening skills like? Do I listen just to respond, or do I listen to understand what the other person is trying to say? And it's not just words people say, it's their tone, right? Like you can hear a lot when people speak to you, you can kind of understand what they're feeling, right? Like, okay, is this person sad? Is this person angry? Are they maybe uncomfortable? So that is huge. Listening is just huge.
I really like that because I think that is something that I think it could, and it might be a good way for foreigners to relax when they're in those social situations. Because sometimes I know when I think back to when I was new in Germany and struggling with the German, you would get into those situations and then you've got so much pressure on you because you want to make friends, first of all. That's a big pressure that you put on yourself, or some people put on themselves, I guess. And you want to understand the language. So you're thinking, oh God, am I gonna get all this? And I think a lot of it is just maybe, and that's why I like this advice, is just slowing your mind down and saying, just listen, just listen to the tone, listen to what this person is saying, and don't worry about answering just yet. Because I think that's also the other thing is like, at some point you're going to have to give a reply and you don't want to come across as stupid maybe. And so I like the idea of just listening or developing listening as a skill that can help you calm down or simplify those communication exchanges.
Exactly. And the big thing is also your nonverbal communication, right? Like how you're kind of like carrying yourself, or how you're like nodding when somebody, speaking, and then you let people speak, right?
You're making me so aware of myself now in this interview, Nadja. I'm like, am I nodding? Am I smiling?
Yeah, okay, Shaun, don't worry. But it's literally, sometimes it's just nice to smile, because some people get so nervous, but then when you're just sitting here, like, you're smiling, and then people just feel comfortable with you, right? When you're just smiling. At the end of the day, and I've experienced this in every culture, right? People want to be listened to. People want to be heard. People love speaking about themselves. We all do. Okay, let's keep it real. We all love talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
So when we find somebody that listens, we are feeling good.
I just love that bit of advice, because that's really also a first step to making friendships, I guess. If someone sees you as a good listener and that you're listening to their stories and what you're saying, then that's just going to be a step forward in the right direction as well.
Yeah, and also how you respond. So for example, when somebody is telling you, that they might be struggling with something, or that they are not doing well, it's also about responding accordingly and really showing empathy.
Yeah.
And really, showing that you understand what people are saying and what they're kind of going through and stuff. And it's a huge part of, emotional intelligence as well.
Yeah.
Showing empathy. So really making people feel seen. That's one of the biggest things. We all want to feel seen. And when I share something with you, right, like I make myself vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I would want you to kind of, appreciate that and be like, oh, you know what? I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And just kind of supporting each other. And that's one of the biggest things why I'm doing this and have this program and want to help people, because I just want that we're all supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially now, I mean, we live in such an unstable and uncertain world, right? Like, you don't know what's happening next. And it obviously depends on the country you live in as well. But so many people feel lonely and isolated, and it's hard to open up to people and stuff. So that's why I want to help people to understand themselves better, so they can connect with other people and really support each other. I think that's important. And I'm very lucky, all the friendships, I've built over the past 11 years abroad here in Germany. Like, we are so supportive of each other, and I know I can call people anytime, and I have a lot of friends that I can, laugh with, but we can also cry together.
Yeah. And that's important, isn't it?
It's one thing that really connects you. And it's so important to just be there for another person sometimes. And again, sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Sometimes you just have to be there and listen, or, just be there for somebody. Sometimes it's not about the words. It's literally how you're just there for somebody.
Yeah. When we were doing a prep call for this interview, you said something that I quite liked, and you just mentioned it now in passing, is that when you're looking for friends, you're looking for someone that you can laugh with, but also someone you can cry with. So I think that's also a big part. But that is then, I think that comes with a deeper connection, which is a whole different topic of discussion, because, and I get this a lot from foreigners in Germany as well. They say it's easy, you meet a German and they'll help you. The Germans can be very helpful. People like when you move into a new apartment, people will help you out with certain things if you need them, but they struggle to make that connection with someone. Is that also something that you cover in your 45-day course? Is that deeper connection?
Yes, I do. And it's actually one of my favorite things, because having this deep connection, with another person, it's just such a special thing. Like, all the deep connections that I have with people, I think it's one of the most important things in life.
Yeah.
To be able to connect with other people, because as we know, like, other people and the relationships we have with them, they can be amazing, right? They can be like so awesome. But if you don't really connect with people, it can be very, very challenging, and you can feel very lonely. You can have 10 friends, but it's quite superficial, the stuff you talk about, and you might be scared to talk about certain things and stuff. So one thing that I always talk about is like building this trust, right? Like when you first meet somebody and you really build trust by just being yourself and being authentic and being open and being willing to make yourself vulnerable and just share certain things. And we all have different levels of, like being comfortable with like sharing certain life experiences, certain struggles and stuff. So that's another thing you kind of need to be aware of. How open are you to share certain things? Because that is something that you kind of need to figure out, and what might be holding you back. And sometimes it's like we don't talk about things because it's certain trauma, we've experienced and we haven't been able to process it yet. So obviously you wouldn't want to talk to, people about certain things because it makes you feel uncomfortable or sad or causes any kind of emotions. But yeah, just sharing life experiences, and then again, also sharing struggles, and not just like the positive stuff, because we all struggle with something. And if you meet a person and you think, oh, their life is so perfect, it's hard to connect, because then, you might feel a little bit intimidated, or you're like, is this real? Like, everything is great with them. Are they never sad? Do they not struggle with anything? Are they not having any challenges at all? And yeah, so once you start opening up, you make yourself vulnerable, you can connect on such a deep level. And it's so fulfilling when you start doing that.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it is that feeling of vulnerable is real, or that fear of being vulnerable is real, especially with Germans, because Germans can come across as very uncaring. And even if you do, and again, this is maybe my experience with Franconians, and I can't speak for the rest of Germany, but where I am, you can sometimes spill your heart to a German and they will look like they're not reacting at all. Maybe inside they've had some reaction, but you won't necessarily get that empathy that you might have expected, or some kind of understanding. So I think that leads people to thinking, well, they just think that I'm being dramatic or whatever. So I think that is also a real thing that with foreigners in Germany, that I can see that they would be afraid to be vulnerable. Like that is a very difficult step. It's easy to say you should be vulnerable, and I 100% agree with you. I think that is the key, but it's also incredibly difficult to just put it out there. Like for me, it's just something I do naturally, because when I meet people that I like connect with, just like on a superficial basis, I sometimes just see like, how much can I tell you before you freak out and go away? I'm a very open, honest person. It's just the way that I am. So it's been easy for me, but I can see people being afraid of that vulnerability.
100%. And that's why it's important also to kind of know your audience. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And listen to what people are saying, kind of watch nonverbal communication at times. And then you can just start easy, right? Yeah. Like you wouldn't tell them like your biggest secret or whatever, but you can kind of, talk about a small thing, see how they react, and then just kind of go from there, because it is a journey, right? Like you obviously build trust over time, but if you kind of like start with a small thing and kind of see how people react, and obviously one of the things is you don't have to get along with everyone.
No, and not everyone has to like you either.
Exactly. And that's the thing, we are all so different. There's so many people in the world, so sometimes people get so caught up with the wrong people, and it might not be a good match. And we've all done this, right? We try so hard that somebody else likes us, and we're like, why don't they like me? Like, what's wrong with me? And then you start, spinning those stories again. Nothing is wrong with you, but you might not have certain things in common, personality-wise. It's just not a good match. Yeah. So there's another important thing to kind of understand. If the communication is not working for whatever reason, sometimes it's good to let it go and move on and, start meeting other people.
Yeah. And that is very good advice for foreigners as well, especially if you're new. I experienced the same thing. Like you would go into a situation with a German and you would say, okay, I have to be friends with this German. And then the next situation, I have to be friends with just this German. Yeah. And if it didn't work out, you look at yourself. I remember thinking to myself, Germans hate me. They're like, this Shaun Behrens concept just doesn't work for Germans. But meanwhile, exactly like you said, you have to find the right people where there is a chemistry match. The chemistry and the match is important. You can't just have a deep connection with everybody, like you said. So I think that's a good point.
Exactly. And you don't have to, and we just pressure ourselves sometimes, right? That's what happens. Like we really pressure ourselves and then again start, questioning ourselves and stuff. So yeah, you don't need 20 friends, right?
No.
You don't. If you have a couple really, really good friends, that's all you need. Some people, that you can really talk to about everything, that are reliable, you can call them at any time. And you have this deep connection, but yeah, it is a journey, and we all want to belong, right? We all want to belong, and we all want to connect with people. And yes, as a foreigner, it is very, very difficult. At the beginning. But again, I always tell people you got to be patient. And then again, if you work on yourself and build up your confidence, and you know who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, you are going to talk to people so differently. Yeah. So differently. That's why I always say it starts with you. Like we always start, with ourselves, and then we kind of start connecting with people. And I work with clients, and sometimes after a week or two, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling so different," and I can tell their energy, changes. Like we get on a call, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like you can tell they're so motivated, and they're like, "Oh, Nadja, I'm feeling so good," because they've done their work. They've done their homework and stuff. They're like, "Oh, I really thought about this and stuff." Gives you so many ideas. You feel motivated, and then you have more stuff to talk about with new people as well. If you, kind of explore yourself and you're into different stuff and self-development, especially the things that you learn, you can share with other people, and you will connect on a totally different level because they might want to, improve some stuff. So yeah, again, starts with you.
Starts with you. We keep coming back to that. You can't get around it. Just one thing before we wrap up the conversation about friendships is one of the points that I liked that you made a bit earlier is that building trust slowly. And I think that's also a good approach for German friendships. Like not all at once. They don't have to like you immediately, but if there's someone that you could see that you could get along with, I think it's important to build that trust up. Like if they're going to invite you somewhere to go and do something, that you're available to go, or that if they need to talk to you about something, that you're available and stuff. And slowly but surely, it's that building up of trust over time that also leads to the deeper connections as well. So I think that's also a good point and a good approach for German friendships.
Yeah, and being reliable. German people, like when people are reliable, and then we all do like that when people are consistent. As well. Because, if you are trying to build a friendship and you just, forget to message somebody back, or you message after 3 days, like, how do you feel when somebody does that to you, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, yeah, then we just feel like, oh, we're not important to that person.
Yes.
So it's, again, it also comes down to how do you make other people feel?
Yes.
So, that's a huge thing as well.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a moment there to say to all those people who have not answered in my emails, I'm sorry. I am busy. I'm going to get back to you. I know people email me at info@thegermanexperience.de, and sometimes I take 3 weeks to respond. So I'm sorry.
God.
I'm sorry to all those people, but it takes time for me to get to my mails.
Well, it seems like you're very popular, Shaun.
Well, no, it's just that I'm very busy. But yeah, I do want to be your friends, people, even though I don't know you. So that's that. Where can people find you, Nadja? And of course, as I said, I will link to that 45-day course below. It sounds like there's a lot of value to be had. There are a lot of things that you can work through and help you take a step forward. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, I'm just kind of all over the place, and I have my own website as well. So I'll give you all the information.
Yes,
but yeah, people can reach out on all the different platforms. I'm always, down for a chat.
Yes, you are. I can confirm. I told her I wanted to come on a podcast, and she said yes with that was it. It was very easy. Nadja, thank you so much for coming on. I think that you've got a lot of insights, especially from your experiences as a foreigner yourself. And I'm very pleased that you were able to come on and share it with the listeners. So yeah,
thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. This was so fun.
It was really fun. So take care.
Awesome. Have a good one.
And that's it for this week. Don't forget, new episodes in your feeds are now there on Wednesdays and I nearly said Monday. They're on Wednesdays and not Mondays as before. Get in touch with me at info@thegermanyexperience.de, or you can find me on social media. Looking forward to hearing from you. Just get in touch. Let me know what you're thinking, what's going on. And I guess that's it. Music in this episode, as always, by my band 10 Cent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson. Until the end. This is the end. I'll speak to you next week. Auf Wiederhören.